Welcome to episode 93 of A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Gaz, and joining me this week, a man who's so crap at the game. He butchered nearly everything possible in our last scenario that even I'm looking at this guy like, dude, get it together. Daddy. You're Daddy today, so unfortunately, say hi, Dad.
Hi, Dad. It's cool being Daddy. I do Daddy
Is it?
things.
Well, if you could be Daddy for a day, what would you do?
Say hi, I'm Daddy. I don't know. I go play Counter-Strike or something because you're really good at Counter-Strike.
Man, I haven't touched Counter-Strike in forever.
And you're probably still a million times better than I ever was. And I'd play heaps of FPS games and be like, whoa, I'd be like, feel like Neo, like in the Matrix.
Have you played an FPS game at your age right now?
I've played the joke ones like Overwatch. Like, where you just pick a character and then just go, I'm just gonna, use these abilities and
smash the keyboard.
Yeah, and then laugh at people when I kill them. I go, well,
that's right.
I'm
GG
terrible.
easy and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
No, GG. Like, you shouldn't play if I can kill you.
Yeah, even worse.
Yeah,
the ultimate punishment. No, so the reference of that was more into the fact that I had a really, really bad game that we've just done. At least for the second half, I'm halfway through editing it, and things have turned, and our audience would have obviously seen the actual playthrough by now, where things kind of fell apart a little bit towards the end, and I'm a little bit ashamed. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with me being ashamed of myself.
I think you did badly.
Look, I'm just being overly harsh on myself, but that's because I believe in this particular game and franchise. If you stand in the wrong position, like a certain Chain Helm did in scenario 2 or whatever, and you invite problems where you're basing it off RNG, of what ability card they're going to pull and what initiative, that's on you. And that was 100% on me. I went balls deep into a room with bears and hounds, thinking that I was going to be fine and that I would beat them on initiative when I can't.
Yeah, the game can be really punishing like that in that it's super easy to get tilted. And I feel like, kind of along with the definition of tilted, then you try too hard to rectify that. And unfortunately, the Haven series seems to be one of those games that if you try and squeeze more out of your turn, right? Like you try to get too clever. Like those turns you line up where you're like, ooh, I'm going to pick this card and this card. And if I go exactly after these two mobs, but before this mob, without anyone else going before me, this is going to be really good. That never works, right? No. Ever works. And I feel like the more tilted you get or the more behind you get, the more those type of plays you do.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, and it's like risky, which is fine, but then it doesn't work. And then you get further tilted because it's almost like, no, when you get like that, play it safe, right?
Yeah.
Like go really late and just see what everything is doing, stay out of trouble. But I know I've been there, but I'm going in.
We need a safety word. Like everyone needs to have their own distinct safety word so that I can, or someone can actually say the word to me that's going to pull me out of a negative kind of slump. Because everyone goes through that when they're just, you draw a null 15 times. Now you can obviously shake that off really easily. But if I was to do it, actually, no, I'd jump along with the fun. I think it's just more when you get absolutely booked by something that was avoidable. That's kind of what I experienced. Is that I didn't need to go in. I didn't need to take all of the hits. I didn't need to, burn a card to negate the fat hits that I was taking. But I did. So, yeah.
It's an interesting discussion of like what tilts you. Like what thing is it in, and not in general, not in life, right? But like if we're talking about Haven specifically in our playthroughs, like what things tend to happen that tilt you? Right? Because like I bet some people get real tilted by RNG, right? Like so either drawing badly for the AMD or potentially monster AI, like, always getting the bad cards, which is, when you're talking about RNG and a perception of it, everyone remembers the really bad ones, but don't remember 5 times in a row when the monsters didn't do anything.
It's a really good point.
But that's irrelevant. Like if that tilts you, that tilts you. So yeah, you deal with it. Like I wonder what that is. Like what is it for you? Do you think if you had to narrow it down off the top of your head?
Oh, I think I know exactly what it is. I worry too much about what people think about me, and the decisions I make. It comes with the anxiety, it comes with, the confidence issues, which is kind of where, we kind of started the pod on a rocky kind of start, but I persevered and pushed through it, right? And now I'm a lot more confident with these kind of things. I think there's still a part of the gameplay where, and now that we're doing playthroughs, it's even more under a microscope, right? Because I'm not a professional gamer in any capacity. I don't have that knowledge. So I always wonder, are people going to judge pretty much every combo of 2 cards that I'm going to pick? And sometimes when that happens live at the table, when someone questions a decision I make and I have a reason, if it's a fuck up, right? I'm happy to own that and be like, wow, I really booked that, etc. But if it's more about I'm trying to do something and people are questioning it, but there are other reasons, that tilts me. Whereas it's like, just leave me alone, right? I don't mind if it's a fun discussion, like kind of, why'd you do that for or whatever. But it's almost like, Daddy, you're an idiot. Why did you do that? Why did you waste the burn? And that kind of stuff, yeah. That will set me off a little bit.
Yeah,
That's
it's a tough one, and I definitely I think that kind of plays into that whole quarterbacking mindset, right? Like people, not just from a Haven perspective, but in general, where you do a thing and people are like, "Why did you do that? Why don't you do
mm,
this?" Right? And I think that's why I keep that in mind in general, where it's more highlight things that as a group we need to achieve, like.
yeah,
That guy really needs to die because of X, or hey, we need to make sure this thing doesn't die because it's the objective, or something like that, right? So it's like people can then go, oh, okay, if I wanted to focus, then that's what I should focus on. But I'm never going to say, hey, can you play this card and this card, unless it's like that'll combo really well. It's like
unless it's
I'm
part of
gonna
a combo,
yeah,
yes.
well, then it's like, "Hey, can you do this so that I can
Yeah,
do that?" Right? But that's not
yeah,
saying you should. It's like,
no.
"Can you do it?" Right? Like, Phil taps me and says, "Can you make fire?" And I say, "No." He's like, "What about that potion you've got?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I can do that." So yeah, I get what you're saying, and it's a hard thing.
Yeah, okay.
I think for me, it's probably like it's funny because this kind of is what tilts you, but it's not for when people do the wrong thing. I think it's when people do things that make everyone else's some impact someone else negatively, right? And it's really bad, and then it's probably more negatively affects the scenario. Because like the whole thing's supposed to be fun, but we've got to win it. Like
Yeah.
if people want to do really cool shit and then die, and then we lose the scenario, then for me that's like you made the wrong decision.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
though even
yeah.
though it was fun for you, you've now meant the other 3 people have to redo the scenario, right? So I think it's this borderline of like, hey, you want to do something really cool? That's fine, go do it. I'm all for that in this game, right? Find your fun. But if it's gonna mean that you lose the scenario, or it means someone else gets massively booked, right? Like you were gonna do something and then change your mind, or you do something and it messes someone up, and then they get absolutely stomped because of that, and they didn't say anything. Like, yeah, by the way, I'm going to go at really low initiative and leave.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get focused. If you don't know that, that's what tilts me a little bit. And it's not even just on me. It's like when people do that, I'm like, oh, could have just said, hey, I'm moving. Right?
Have
Or,
you
"Hey,
experienced this yet?
I'm gonna burn a card and kill everything in this room." Like, just
Yeah.
say that. Like, just be like, "Hey, don't worry, guys, everything's gonna be dead." Be like, "Okay, I won't plan on a turn that involves things being alive." Right? Like, so the tilting part for me, I think, is just the communication.
Yeah, okay.
It's like when
Has
people sit
this
on it.
have you experienced this before?
Oh, like, I mean, in, like, an entire campaign of Frosthaven and stuff like that, it's
Ugh.
come up.
Yeah, okay.
And we've talked about communication a bit on the pod, right? Like we had bad communication, then I played the Banner and somehow we all got really good at it. And then I stopped playing the Banner and we got bad at it again. Like
It's
it's
it's it's hilarious how that changes it, basically. It can change how the group just act as a whole.
hmm.
The
And I think
communication is
with the
key.
Crimson Scales, we've kind of picked it up back up a little bit now. I think talking a little bit about that stuff. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that tilts me. It's just when everyone just does their own thing and then it makes it worse.
Hmm. That was fun. Thank you for asking because I didn't have that in my show notes, but it made it for a very fun chat about. I didn't think we were going to go down the path of, what upsets you? What about us upsets you? Conversations. I love it. Thank you.
For people listening, if you chuck it in the Discord or the episode
We'll make
notes
a Reddit
about
post.
You make a Reddit post. But, like, what tilts you, not from a complaining perspective, but just, like, give us, like, one line, like, if you know the type of situation without, like, throwing anyone under the bus, but let's it's good to know what hey, if you know what upsets you, it's a lot easier to mitigate or avoid it, right? Like, it's the more you know.
Yeah, yeah, that's completely fair. Thank you, Gaz. On today's episode, we will be covering scenario 69. This is Shaman Chaperone. And then we're going to have a Crimson Scales PQ chat, but it's not what you think. The beginning of this particular scenario, we had to, and unfortunately the camera died, so we missed out on all the intro. I'm going to record a separate intro for the playthrough, which has already come out, so you've all seen it now. But we covered the end of the first 5 scenarios of being completed, and we had to read a section, which ended up becoming 37D. Before we did absolutely anything. And this was very cool because it kind of gave us a little bit of story, which I've already forgotten what it was, but it accessed the Merchant Guild Hall, which is a new feature of Crimson Scales, which is tracked on a separate sheet. And every time you complete 5 scenarios, you address this chart, right? There's a chart here with a bunch of checkboxes. So every time you complete 5, you tick one off and you do whatever it says, which is very cool. It's very different to what we've experienced in previous games, and it's very cool that you can take a similar system to what we're familiar with and then do something completely different with it. And most of the options on the left-hand side of the chart are to do with prosperity, so this is one way that we can fast-track our prosperity. And then the right-hand side, which is we had to make a decision, and you helped us make a decision regarding adding City and Road Event 59 to the top of the corresponding decks. Some of the other options are random side scenarios, but 2 of them are basically playing events. Now, you've led our decision into this, and there's no shade or anything like that there because we're very bad at making these decisions. Why this? Why did you want the events?
Uh, because they would come up and we'd get through them. Like, prosperity isn't gonna add anything to the game. Like, if we would have moved to the next prosperity, but I don't think that triggers anything. Um, so
I
if
can't remember.
I don't know, but, like, getting 3 prosperity doesn't sound interesting, but getting events is like, "Hey, cool, we're gonna access more content that's in the game." So I thought we'd do that one
It's
first.
a really good point. That's a really good point. I believe prosperity that will bump us up to the next tier, which will give us the prosperity 2 items from CGO's shop. That will
Yeah, okay,
probably be
cool.
something that we're guaranteed to get. And obviously, if we can bump up the prosperity, it just means when we retire, we can skip level 1 and things like that if we get enough. But other than that, no, I think you're right. Seeing more stuff is probably good.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what Stinky's response will be when he finds out we didn't pick the prosperity.
Look, I think the other thing as well is we're nowhere near doing any side scenarios. So that was one of the other options is that we have we've just we started Crim Scales and now we've gone on a side tangent, like side quest to do the Trials of Ashes. We know that some of our PQs lead to extra scenarios. So, like, the idea that we need and we've already, I think, unlocked 1 or 2 side scenarios as it is. The idea that we wanna add more side scenarios to get further distracted, I think was, like, definitely not the
It's a
thing we
tough
wanted to do.
call, guys, because side scenarios and random side scenarios tend to sometimes have the best rewards. Like sometimes it's just bursts of XP or a really cool item, and they usually have a gimmick tied to them or whatever. But don't forget, our party sheet has a thing of complete a random side scenario. We need to do one
That's true.
to do our whatever basic initiation rites or whatever it is.
That's true. Well, I mean, maybe when we get through 5 more well, we only need 4 more, right? Because 5th one was that one, so we just
Hmm.
4 more, and we can pick one of the if someone else can choose.
Yeah,
Have
it is.
the responsibility.
It is interesting that you have to complete 5 scenarios, which well, it's every 5 weeks, I guess, for us, hopefully. But yeah, it's it's cool because it further differentiates our campaign to other people's campaigns based on the decisions they're making, which I'm a big fan of. So adding more of these systems in place into the game, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah, I think just without doing a deep dive on this, but just as like real surface thoughts, I think it's a really, really cool way of allowing you to customize your journey through the campaign without like the I don't want to say rigid because that sounds negative, but it's like very say the Frosthaven version, which was here is your calendar, certain things will happen, but then there's also other randomness like when you unlock a building based on who got dealt what PQ. So with this one, it's there,
Yeah.
Like, if you just to say for Frosthaven example, if it was every 5 scenarios you completed, pick one of these buildings to unlock and you can build it, then I'm not saying that would be a better system, but that would then mean that you could kinda pick your path,
Mm.
kind of what we have the opportunity to do now.
Mm.
Yeah, if we really need prosperity, we can grab prosperity. If we want a new scenario, we can do that, and there's a whole bunch of other options. So I think that's a really cool way of triggering it. And it also there could be ways in the game that built in to just give you one of those. So there
Mm.
could be, you know, a reward at the end of a small quest chain or a side scenario chain or something that someone's like, hey, just, you know, out of your normal cycle, tick one of those boxes and gain the reward.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, it's a chance of like going like, here, have an option to further your thing that's not going to take you. I don't know, it's not going to be broken and take you off the path. So
Yeah, okay. The
I
other
love.
new system we've been introduced to as well is actually the Temple of the Great Oak or whatever. We've had different blesses, and now we've got a new bless system, which is very refreshing. You've essentially got two different decks to draw from whenever you bless or pray at the Great Oak. I think it's still 10 gold, but instead of just drawing a straight up bless, or two blesses, which was the crits, now you've actually got four different types. There's two cards of each type. Four different types of standard blesses, and then four different ones of rolling blesses, and you draw one from each pile, and it's random as far as I know. It's random, and you draw one of each. I think you can check it, and then they get shuffled into your deck. But they're little things like add target, I believe. There's one that heals. It's a rolling heal. Self heal. There's one that models and strengthens. Self. Interesting. Maybe it's model them. You can't. No, I don't know. But you know what I mean. These are new ways that they've customized just a system that I didn't think needed it so much. But I'm also welcoming the addition of it,
Mm.
especially because the times two is still there. It's just they've got additional stuff on them now, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I
think
was looking at the wrong deck.
it does. I think another cool way of yeah, expanding an existing system to make it not as vanilla, and it
Yeah.
doesn't make it any worse. So yeah,
Do you
it's
think
good.
it would? Do you think it would encourage you to bless more?
Maybe I think anyone who's spending their money to get extra crits is not going to be incentivized because you could maybe get a heal crit, right? Like you still got to draw it, but it definitely I think further rewards people who are going to do that by making it a bit more interesting.
Hmm.
So.
Yeah. Okay. We'll head off to scenario 69. We'll cover both of these events that are so funny because when I was doing the notes, I was like, cool, let's see what our events were. Oh, City Event 59. Yeah, we'll put that into the show notes. And then, oh, Road Event 59. Oh, they both seem like well past the initiation ones. Did we both? Wow, that's really crazy randomness. How the hell did we pull both? Maybe when we drew them, I put them on top and forgot to shuffle the decks. And yeah, I was just fighting amongst myself and writing the show notes, and then I went back to check what the merchant thing was, and it was like the thing we picked was place 59 on both, on top of both. And I was like, oh thank God we didn't mess any of that up. So the first event we had, event 59, while visiting the Sanctuary of the Great Oak to make another donation, a group of men in elaborate white robes with shimmering golden oak designs greets us. They bow deeply and thank us for our generosity, explaining that our contributions have made a big difference in helping those in need. As a gesture of gratitude, they want to honor us with a golden plaque. The question is, where? The hospital, symbolizing healing and care, or the temple, representing faith and guidance? I forgot what we picked.
Uh, I think
And the worst part
hospital.
is there's no record of it because we lost the
We
video.
lost the video. Yeah, I think what were the options again? Hospital or
Hospital or temple?
I think we picked hospital.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Read the
And
reward.
then what was cool about this was it's saying, depending on your starting group, if you're the naturalists or protectors, you read a thing. But if you're militants, explorers, or trailblazers, you read a different thing,
Mm.
which was, well, unique to this because this is the only game that has those. Normally it's racial traits or something like, or the, what are they called? The trait words, chaotic and stuff
Keywords?
like that. Yeah, the keywords.
Yeah.
But this one actually opened up to a, what did this open up to?
A section, right?
Yeah. I thought I had it ready. So we got okay, because I didn't know what the reward was either at the time. So I was very confused by it. Whenever a character donates to the sanctuary during their visit to Gloomhaven, they may now also add one modifier to their attack modifier deck. This modifier is removed after it is drawn and returned to the supply. So what at the time I didn't know what that meant.
Mhm.
I've since scoured and found a little deck that says halt, don't blah 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 this until you have resolved event 59, which I've just gone, oh, that's cool.
We did that.
And there are cards in there that have like the two on them, like this one over here. So this has got a 2 in the bottom left hand corner, and then it's got a +0. It's a rolling modifier with muddle and strengthen on it. So someone, when they bless, can access any of the cards that have the number 2 on them. And from the looks of it, they're all the same, which is cool.
So when you bless, you get a one bless from each of the bless decks, like we
Yep.
just discussed, and then you
Yep.
also get one of those cards.
Yes.
So you get
You get
a third card added to your deck.
I believe so.
Wow, that's really cool.
Hmm. Go
I
go
think
bloat.
yeah, that's and I think reading through the other options, like whether you did the other option or if you've got the different starter groups, they were all very different, which was kind of
Hmm.
cool. So I think again, that's another cool way of yeah, kind of I guess customizing your own journey.
Hmm. I like that we are now, what, 5, 6 weeks in, and we're still getting drip fed some little mini surprises before
Mm,
we hit bigger milestone surprises. So, hey, in Surprise Haven, this is what we froth and this is what we love. So, yeah, excited that week by week we keep finding new stuff, which is awesome.
yeah.
We had a Road Event 59 as well. This is also forced upon us by Gaz. We come to a fork. No, that was last week,
That
so
was
I
the
haven't
bees.
summarized. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the
You
other one,
return
oh
to the
my
side of
god,
the
dude.
bees.
One
Mhm,
word,
mhm.
berries.
Oh yeah, this was the best.
We lost the recording of it with
Oh, we did.
red
I'll
berries,
try.
green berries.
I'll
Get your
try
berries
and
here.
yeah, I'll try and reenact my excitement.
Yeah. So we had a caravan slowly passing by. Verling pokes its head out and then tells us about these amazing berries. And we shake our head in disgust, remembering that our promise to never eat roadside berries again. But then the Verling shakes its head and grabs our shoulder. These are no ordinary berries. They're infused with the psychic power which will allow you to manifest your greatest inner potential. Therefore, I insist, take your pick, red or green.
So, and we all kind of clued on this as soon as that first line gets read, where it's like, "Hey, pick a berry," and you're like, "You decided never to eat berries again." And this has been almost a conversation since the very start of our podcast around events and the, I guess, cliche was pick a berry, left or right, like red or green, right? Because like in Gloomhaven, there wasn't really any signposting. It was basically random because I believe there was two or three,
I
and
think there is, yeah.
yeah, and they were opposite. So, you know, you normally go, "Oh, is green good, red bad, other way around." And they would kind of trick you in a way. So it was kind of a feels bad because you were just guessing. That's always been our, is this just a, you
Coin
know,
flip.
a coin flip? Yeah. And I love that it's like, "Hey, you don't like these." And then you're like, "So you decide not to," and they're just like, "You have to."
This one's
And then pick
better.
one. Yeah, this one's better, Barry. So I love that throwback. It's such a cool reference.
Very cool. I think everyone who has played Gloomhaven can really appreciate that. We chose. Oh wow,
Green.
we voted on this,
Green.
didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
voted green. And green was B. You chose to eat the green berries, and although the taste is familiar, you begin to sense a power described, the power described by the Vermling. So, if trailblazers or explorers, which is us, during the first round, all move abilities by characters have their values doubled. Oh, be a shame if 3 people didn't do anything with it. Uh,
Yeah. What
but yeah, really cool. Oh, do you want
what
to see the other
what
option?
would we have gotten if we'd eaten I know I read it out, but if we eaten the red berries as explorers?
As explorers, all characters start the scenario by overhealing by 3 points, but their maximum hit point value remains the
That's
same.
right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, which is actually really cool as well.
Yeah.
Probably more useful.
Probably. Well, I mean, with how people made use of it, correct. Yeah. Although I did make very good use of it. But the other thing that's really cool about this event is that they force it in. So it's guaranteed to come out as long as you do choose that reward from 5 scenarios. So
Yeah,
again, it's not a random chance. They're like, no, 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 we won't make sure everyone, you know, gets this reward, this event at some point. So
yeah. And the good thing is, according to that Merchant Guild chart, there's another one coming with 2 events that we can put. So, Maybe we'll do that next, right?
Maybe.
Except, is it a shame that okay, one of these events did something permanent for our campaign, which is the blessing thing, but this one's obviously a flash in the pan. We kind of wasted it in a way. I mean, it helped you in the beginning of the scenario, but yeah, it's a shame that it's kind of like we see it, but then we don't get to utilize it in a different scenario. It's a one shot, done and done. You know.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting with those. I think the one shot kind of scenario bonuses are cool.
Mm.
And like we had one a couple of scenarios ago where we had the snake,
Mm.
right? I think they're really good, but the problem is it's kind of the Ormi issue, right? Is that sometimes they can just come out on really I won't say bad, but miss a line on the scenario that they get drawn on and then they're wasted. Um I don't know. I don't know how you do it. Maybe it's just there's enough randomness that it just sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I just feel like because they are coming in from that mechanic, they picked two. One of the two did something like a permanent slight
Mm,
adjustment to the thing, which is not game changing or anything like that. It's just almost like there are a bunch of these cards here with different numbers on them, where they've isolated one of them and gone from now on. Whenever you bless, you get one of these, which is cool. The second one, yeah, it's just kind of gone in a
mm.
way. That's all. And I just wanted something else that was permanently minor. That would shape it up, especially considering you're forced to put these at top when you pick the thing.
It would be cool if that berry guy went back in the deck.
Yeah, I suppose yeah, it wouldn't because of the Trailblazer and all the other options, I guess.
Why?
Because you'll always get the same ones, I guess. I mean, you pick the other option,
Oh,
the other
okay. Yeah.
side.
What you chose, right? Not what you are now.
Yeah, it's what you chose at the
Yeah.
start.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you
Makes sense.
you don't. Yeah, as soon as you add a new person, we're no longer the explorers. We're the explore.
Well, yeah.
We miss a couple
How
of
does that
letters.
work? Right? Is it just what you chose as your starting party?
I think it's just what you chose at the start.
So even if we got this once everyone's retired and we no longer have that explorer party, are we still we're still technically the explorers, right?
Well, this is I don't know because the card actually says if naturalists or trailblazers at the end of the first round, but once you reach a certain point, you're neither. And I
Unless
assume it's the starting one. It has to be.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's kind of like a mini pick a faction, right? Like we are explorers now. So any card in the future that refers to what you chose is more saying like which guild or which kind of like mercenary group do you belong to? And we are
Yeah,
forever the explorers. So
forever. Yeah,
which makes more sense if it's a permanent attachment. Like we now have the explorers keyword type thing.
yeah, which is useful. Good to
Well,
explore.
yeah, exactly. As long as we keep exploring.
Exactly. So on our way to scenario 69, bit of the story recap. Escaping the vermlings and the smoke spirits from scenario 68, we were desperate for a breather. But luck wasn't on our side. Signs of recent fighting littered the trail. Arrows embedded in trees, pools of blood, and torn scraps of what looked like Enoch's clothing. Cries of pain soon draw us to a familiar face. Taylor, the shaman Roxani sent us to find, slumped against a tree with a bleeding leg. When we asked what she was doing here, her response was as infuriating as it was telling. Turns out, we were her decoys, drawing the spirits away while she made her own attempt for the ember crystals. To make matters worse, she casually mentioned a pack of wolves that had attacked her group just as distant howls pierced the air. Despite our annoyances, Taylor made us an offer. Help her reach her tribe, and she'd reveal how to access the chamber containing the crystals. She might have played us, but the truth was we needed her knowledge. Reluctantly, we struck a deal and prepared for whatever fresh chaos awaited us. Scenario goal. When Taylor ends her turn on an exit A, the scenario is complete and read a thing. It's an escort, Gaz. Last time we had an escort was not last time. The first time we had an escort this early into a campaign was scenario 2 with the priest that just got booked. Um, see what Taylor can do. Maybe she's better. Scenario factor is none. Monster combinations, we had the biggest, weirdest mishmash of cave bear and hound. They make sense. They go together. Except before we had polar bears, right? Cave bear, hound. We have earth demons, Enoch shamans, and this is before we know anything. And verling scouts. Interesting mixture. And the bear and the hounds is a horrible combo, and I wish it was didn't exist. As I think that they seem to go together. They go very early and they do a bunch of immobilizing and a bunch of eating.
I feel like the monster selection in this is more reminiscent of Gloomhaven in that the theme sometimes didn't make sense. They were like, "You're in a dungeon and there are skeletons and also hounds." Because we
And also
need
hounds.
like, each of the monster types in Gloomhaven kind of fit a really specific role, it seemed like they were there for a reason, whereas at Frosthaven, there was the factions were a bit more like, you had Unfettered, you had Lurkers, you had Inox, and a few others bits and pieces, and then they had a couple of random ones like the spirits, but they were very much in a group, so there was usually combinations of those things
Well, yeah,
mostly.
you have those exploding corpse guys. What are they called? Living corpse or something like that. You've
Mm.
got living corpse, living bones, and then spirits. And those three kind of they throw those three together at you somewhat early into the campaign. But after that, it's like, well, we can't use that trio again. I know we'll replace the living spirits with dogs, like hounds, like you said. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, we're starting to get off the track here.
Yeah,
We may as well
yeah.
just mix it up.
And that's what this one was, right?
Yeah,
Like, "Oh, no, watch out, there's bears and wolves, and also earth demons?"
and earth demons,
Sure, why
which are
not?
the bin tier of demons. So it's not the worst thing ever. Our party consisted of everyone at level 3 on Gaz on his Galaxy, Phil on his Flask, Mark on his Chain Helm, and I'm on the Vortex at level 2. Scenario has 4 tiles connected by a mixture of doors and corridors. Special rules. So Taylor is an ally to us and an enemy to all the monster types. Taylor draws from whichever attack modifier deck you prefer. Thoughts on that line right there, which is very unique.
I mean, it's one of those ones where would an extra few words have, like, hurt?
What do you mean?
Well, I know we were like, "Oh, okay, so any ally any attack modifier deck you want." So we assumed that was all of the players as well, like the players or the ally or the, monster one, although can she use the ally deck? Because there it doesn't say to have an ally deck.
Here's
Is
the
the ally
thing.
deck always there?
Well, I don't know if the ally deck exists in Gloomhaven slash Crimson Scales. It was introduced in Frosthaven that I can think of. I don't know if it had an ally deck because NPCs that you were accompanying, and you're going to have to refresh my memory here in Gloomhaven with Hail and all of that. Did they just live by rules of move 2, attack 2 or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
Because
Uh,
I'm thinking that this didn't factor in the ally deck. X-Haven did. X-Haven was like, you need an ally deck for this, but because the game didn't come with one, it may have then just said, look, we know that this doesn't exist at the moment, so use whatever deck you want.
that's a good point. Okay. So that makes yeah, so when it said pick whichever deck that you want, that makes more sense because it's pick whichever player deck you want because there's no ally deck.
No.
I wonder if then if you're also able to still use the monster deck,
Well, later on, like we had the shamans coming through at the end, and the special rules for that specifically said they draw from the monster ability deck.
and that must be you're right because there's no ally deck.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why
Okay.
this is their way of working around it that I'm aware that I can think of. Now, this is purely under the idea that there is no ally deck from those past games, but as far as I know, considering we use mostly apps like X-Haven and all that, which manage that, I don't know if deep down in the Gloomhaven box there was an ally deck. There might have
Mm.
been. I can't remember. Same thing with Jaws of the Lion, etc. So I'm not sure if we're meant to have one.
Yeah. Look, I like the idea of it saying use whichever player deck that you want. I think that's a
Yeah.
cool idea. It probably makes more sense for that just to use the ally deck, which I know didn't exist but now does. I think that's a lot cleaner. Uh,
Oh, but this is way
than
more fun. Like being able to pull AMDs that we've customly put in there, and all of a sudden she's making dark, like, your AMD, or well, your AMD is mostly a miss, so
is
it should be
missing enough.
missing.
Yeah,
But that means you don't have to miss. She
cool.
misses for you.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah, I think it's cool. If Taylor is killed though, the scenario is immediately lost. So they've held on to that
Yep.
little nugget there. Taylor always moves forward towards the exit marked A on the B1B tile, which is the last tile in the whole dungeon. And she opens doors and springing traps when necessary, regardless of enemy focus. So this is obviously a new thing.
So interesting with that, right? We had this kind of come up in the last scenario where the vermlings would always move towards the exit tile. So for refreshing, the last scenario we had was like a bit of a timer where there were vermlings trying to get to the end. If they got to the end before we did, or killed them, or finished it, whatever, we just lost. Um, and we had these situations in the last scenario, and it happened in this one where there would be like because of those wording, they will move through traps or if they need to, right? Which is standard rules. Like standard rules are if a corridor is blocked by, say, all traps, and a monster can get to you, it still will move through the trap, right? It just moves through a negative hex. So the fact that they specify that they will move threw up this weird situation because we had in our playthrough when we got to the next room, we had like I don't know, it was an obstacle on next to the door on the in the way she wanted to go, and then below that, Mark was putting a trap, right? Or going to put a trap, which would mean technically by Monster AI, she would path backwards to go around it. And we thought
Yep.
that's a great idea because it slows her down a bit because she was kind of legging it at this point. Um, but then judging by the word forward in her text, maybe
Yeah.
we just overcomplicated it, but it did make it seem like she's only ever going to go towards it, like the
The
best path, the
shortest.
shortest
Yeah.
route. Yeah, and if there are hazardous or traps, she'll just go through them.
Yeah.
Right? And I wonder if that was put there specifically to stop you being able to maze her,
I think so.
right?
Yeah.
So that you couldn't slow her down, which I don't know. We ended up just going, look, let's just put Mark just put the trap at elsewhere so we didn't have to bother trying to figure it out. I'll
Yeah.
just put the trap here and then she'll go the way she's going to go. But it's interesting because it's now two scenarios in a row. We've run into this weird thing where it hasn't told us that they follow Monster AI exactly. It's like here's a description of how they move, which basically says Monster AI, but with an extra couple of words, which are very
Yeah.
ambiguous. So
Yeah, the forward thing, I mean, we get the whole movement and like it moves before it finds its focus, which does throw us a little bit off with a couple of the, it's hitting something that's further away because that the initiative's the tiebreaker.
hmm.
Even though it looks further away, it can still hit two targets and little things like that, which is just getting used to. But yeah, thanks. It's introducing us a walkthrough trap ally mechanic, which is really cool.
and that's
All
where
char- oh,
and
yeah.
that's where I wonder if, like, again, if we're using Frosthaven rules, if it's just like, hey, this stuff didn't really exist back when this was made. We just use an ally deck. We just use the Monster AI, right? Like, I wonder if that's the simplified version of it. But it'd be interesting to know because if there's more like scenarios over the rest of the campaign, if it is just one of those, just make them use Monster AI. That's
Yeah.
how it's supposed to work. So,
Yeah.
hmm.
Okay. All characters will also start with curse as a scenario effect. Some people have it, some people ignore it. Some people have perks that they haven't picked yet because it's that I'm in six scenarios in.
have
Like
you?
I'm,
Oh, have you got that as an option?
yeah.
Oh no, Daddy, no. I think I've avoided 3 so far.
Oh really?
At least 2. At
Yeah,
least
but
2.
like model and things like that, I'm permanent. I'm immune to model
Yeah,
because I
okay.
have it all the time. All right. Recap. So first round, everything went fine. I just want to talk a little bit about the first round because I'm pretty sure it was the most none round ever. Because Mark, here's the thing, right? And we were actually covering this earlier, right? Earlier in the episode just now about openings in a way. And we've talked about prep rounds and we've talked about all that kind of stuff. Um, we kind of, like you were saying, you kind of like turn one, I want to set up an opening of, I hope the monsters don't do X, Y, Z, right? And this is what leads to bad times. There's safe openings and then there's unsafe ones. And I think Mark and I both went for an unsafe one where if it went off, it would have been awesome. And they went early because, of course, the very first card that Hounds pull is a 6, thus moving right up to us and messing everything up. So both Mark and my first initial turn was kind of ruined. And it got me thinking about, when you were actually starting in turn one, it's really important to obviously, we've talked about tempo, we've talked about staying ahead of that. Prep rounds can potentially help snowball your tempo because even though you're doing nothing at the beginning, you're adding like a multiplier to future turns, which is awesome. But because we went for the risky play, it resulted in a backwards kind of turn where we achieved nothing. We all got hit. You went for the treasure test, which made sense and went up in the sky. Mark did nothing apart from a default attack 2 because his turn got booked. I did nothing because I was going for a double hit, and then the hounds walked up and messed everything up. And yeah, I think Phil set up a prep, which is what he does. But yeah, it's just interesting that opening thing. There's definitely safer options. It's the safer option just to spend to use a card that's guaranteed to hit something. Just a straight up, this is going to hit something, right? And yeah, I think we're getting caught in the try to play too clever kind of situation.
Yeah, I think it's a I mean, there's a push your luck element in the Haven series, which is makes the game amazing. I think this is the one thing that makes you not be able to just math it out, right? Like deterministic, I think is the probably proper
Yes.
term for it, is that the monster AI is random. And having hounds go somewhere between like 6 and 30
Yep.
means that you can go, "Ooh, I'm going at a 20." Look, there's probably a good chance, like maybe 4 of the cards that they pull will go after me. And if this works, it'll be a great turn. But there's a couple of turns that basically make my turn like invalid, right? And that's the push your luck thing. And I think generally in the Haven, it's obviously safer to play the odds. But if you just assume that the monsters are going to pick the worst possible card for you, then
Hmm.
you will probably be better off. But it's not as fun,
Yeah,
right? If you just
it
assume
is. You're
everyone's going to
right.
go before you and play around that, then you can probably have be fine and do mostly all the things you want to do. It's not as fun.
No, I think those risk and rewards are very high in that, yeah, if you when you do pull it off, when it doesn't work, it sucks. It really sucks, right? And your whole turn's ruined and you may book a battle goal as a result, or you may mess up your PQ. But when it gets off and everyone sort of goes, "Oh, that was sick," and you've had a few of those, it is definitely worth
Yeah.
all of the bad ones, right?
And it's kind of like there's a couple of elements like it's like having cards that go really quick or having boots that are 20 or 30 initiative that make your initiative 1. I feel like they, in a way, ruin that. It's kind of the same as like having advantage all the time. We've talked about this with some classes from Frosthaven. I feel like once the randomness of your AMD or the randomness of initiative are taken out of the game, it becomes less fun, I think, in general. If you can't do it all the time, which is usually I think the idea, you're not supposed to be able to have advantage all of the time, or you're not supposed to be able to fix your initiative all of the time, then that's fine. But when you can, it's almost like, well, I'm not playing the initiative game. I just get to do whatever I want.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no,
Uh,
you're 100%. Yeah.
have I frozen in a really bad way? Yeah, it looks like it. Uh,
Hang on, I need a screenshot of this. Oh, damn it. Maybe I got to
you've
snip
you've
it.
got the
Maybe I
whole
got to snip it.
recording. You've got the whole recording.
Yeah, but I wanted to do that. Oh, here we go.
Nope.
Oh,
It's
damn
not.
it.
I'm just gonna quickly, it's frozen for some reason.
Okay.
That's unfortunate.
I wanted to keep talking and add on from that.
It's still there. Um, interesting. I wonder why that's happened.
But as soon as your camera did that, I couldn't look at you
Yeah,
properly.
I know. Yeah, anyway, so I think the idea of being able to fix those 2 things almost detracts from the fun of the game because the chaos is gone. But those 2 things are that the push your luck. And you and Mark both going hard into, we need these things not to go really early. Otherwise, both of our turns are completely booked. Maybe wasn't the thing, and that's where that communication comes in. But I mean, that's where the adaptability comes into it, right? That's what makes the game so much fun. Like you guys had a rough first turn, which isn't fun for you, but it's fun for the experience, right? It's like, oh shit, now we got to deal with this, right?
Here's the thing with that is that I forget sometimes how quickly some of the monsters, especially if you haven't seen them in a while. So this scenario is the one that was the lesson for me. It taught me to just respect the RNG a little bit more regarding what they can pull. Because statistically, I think the lowest card I was bringing in is a 15, which isn't that fast compared to cave bears and wolves, right? So, and then the follow ups that I was playing with, like I think 20 and 23 are the next earliest ones that I have. So I don't have a blistering fast one like other people seem to have,
Mm,
which I should have thought about against these mobs,
yeah.
right? And I think that's where I messed up. Now, there's a level of like, what are the chances they're going to pull the early cards? It's 100% of the time. That's pretty much, the 6 on turn 1, of course. I should have known that was
Always, yeah, yeah. Well,
correct. I
like
should have known.
I'd completely forgotten that they had a 6, right? Like 100%. If you'd said what's their fastest card, I would have been like, I don't know. But I'd even just forgotten that they were quick. So like this is where there's absolutely no shade on you guys for going like, hey, I'll do this because I would have done the same thing. Like if I was
Yeah,
standing
but
in
you
front,
you have a 6.
no, I know, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't have
yeah,
played it. Like, I wouldn't
yeah.
have because that doesn't do anything for me in that instance. I wouldn't have been like, "Oh, I know they've got heaps of quick cards. I better play this so I can do what I want." I would have just gone at a 15 or a 20 or a 30, going like, "Oh yeah, this will work." And then being surrounded going like, "Oh, that's right. Like wolves are really quick." you know?
Really
So
quick.
it's yeah, it is. It's all these lessons that you kind of go through and but yeah, that was a fun first turn. But yeah, my first turn was to then just jump over everyone. I got to use the double movement
The
from
double
our
movement.
green berries.
Yeah, we
Um,
were stuck.
yeah, which I actually almost didn't need because I was the only one who hadn't looted a treasure tile. So there was a treasure chest that and that ticks off another one of our uh party quests. Um, I got Phil to make light for me, which allowed me to have like jump and +2
Mm.
on my move. So I think I had like a move 7 anyway. Like
You
so,
could open the door and come back to us, basically,
yeah,
almost.
yeah, that's it. I think one of the things like instead of this, do you want me to open the door and then come back halfway? Like,
Yeah, because we had Taylor blocked in, so she
yeah.
couldn't exactly get out. But then, yeah, we had to deal with everything that was in the room, which we did. And look, Earth Spirits, are they still in the bin?
Aye, 100%. They didn't do anything. We didn't even kill those 2.
We ignored them. We
We
basically,
we
we just tried
punched
to outrun them, and they were slowly following and
yeah.
punching whoever they could catch in the back of the head.
While we were killing the wolves, we like threw some random attacks at them, and then I think we were just like, "Oh, Taylor's gone." It's like
Yeah,
just in WoW when you're doing an escort quest and the escort just walks past the monsters that were fighting, and you're like, "Oh,
yeah,
guys, like, do we just ignore them and walk off and hope they don't catch up?"
yeah. And then the rest of the scenario is literally us chasing and beating up things while she's, mind you, she's injured and for some reason keeps pulling a move 3, which, I mean, it's one of her legs, but she keeps flying towards the thing and she's happy to stand in traps and hazardous terrain and everything while, you got to run after her and heal her and keep her occupied. And she's going through our amDs essentially. But yeah, we make our way into, I guess, the last room. Phil's AoE stun of the second room is really good. He's always managed to get a really, really good AoE range 2 stun everything in every scenario. It's been really clutch. So I think that I look forward to when we don't have that anymore.
Yeah, for
And we have to
those
do things normally.
you can check it up on the screen or something, but yeah, he's got basically got a burn that does stun everything in range 2, which is just bonkers crazy. And you're right, there's usually been a clutch moment in every scenario where it's been like, "Hey, I'll do this," and this basically gives us a free turn. Like,
Yeah.
it's like a breather turn. So it has been really, really well used. I wonder if there's a way of increasing it to range 3. Like
Wouldn't surprise me if he's got a persistent. Wait, he's got a persistent. Oh, right. It
I think
only
it's
affects attacks.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
so
Maybe we'll have to house rule that. There was a couple of miscommunications in this room, which was really funny. Like you pulling a +2 on a target that I was about to hit, which was really funny. In the doorway one, and you're like, I didn't mean to hit it that hard, and I was like, that's all right. Luckily, I got my spear to poke the one that's through the other person. That's fine. There was a miscommunication around Phil trying to kill a cave bear that Mark had punted through us, and we all butt slapped, including Taylor. She got in on the action, which was great. She's immune to muddle, so it was even better. It was like a wombo combo. And they put this bear in the corner, and it was on 1 health, and no one finished it off. And then it walked up and crit Phil.
yeah, that's
So yeah, look. But that wasn't even the worst part of what happened to them because then we go into the next room. Everyone announces a long rest except for Mark and me. So you and Phil announce a long rest. I go into the room and I'm like, oh, this was a big mistake. That's okay. I'll just, go real fast on the next turn. And then Wolf and Hound go in, absolutely wreck me. I get absolutely munched. And this is where things start falling apart just for me. But the good news is the rest of the scenario looks all fleshed out. Another really key thing when we open this door and we had the special rules of what happens next. So as we're setting up the board and we're calling out what standees are going in, we're calling out Inox Shamans, right? That this is where they are. And Phil announces quite boldly to everyone, based on previous conversation, I have a strong hatred towards these guys. And then Mark said, it'd be funny if they were allies. And it'd be like, lol, 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 hilarious. And we continued to set it up. And then I read the special rules, which were the Inox Shamans are allies to you and your allies, allies to each other and enemies to all other monster types. And Phil's reaction was gold.
yeah.
He just has a meltdown because it turns out these might have something to do with his PQ.
Yep.
And he struggled to kill them the first time we saw them. And we said, hey, mate, you just got to, role play it. Just let us know you need to, which he did this time. Opens the door. Oh, I have a strong hatred towards those guys. And Taylor's like, well, they're my family. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Real awkward now.
Yep. And then the funny moment in the whole role playing immersion of theme piece was that after Phil's character had that conversation with Taylor about not murdering the 2 shamans, Mark's chain helm also popped up and said, I'm an Inox.
Oh,
So it's like, oh, this is
yeah.
super awkward. I didn't realize that you had a burning hatred
Yeah.
against my entire race. Random human with potions. So yeah, there was an awkward moment. Awkward moment.
Very awkward moment. Our new allies had a breakdance contest with the Vermlings. I don't know if you remember. The very first time we saw them, we're like, oh, if they're allies, our allies, they're going to be terrible. And then turn one, the shamans end up just walking up to the Vermlings and healing themselves. And then the Vermlings go, oh, yeah. And then they start looting imaginary nothing. And nothing happened.
Yep.
It was just a weird thing. And we're all spectating it down the other end while I'm getting torn to shreds. So, interesting. But yeah, everyone closes the gap. Everyone runs in there. I barely survive trying to get off whatever. I think there's a butter goal I'm hinting to everyone that I need to achieve. But no, it was actually pretty, I dare say, smooth sailing in that last room. As we basically clear everything and Taylor just has all the freedom in the world to get to her exit.
Yeah, we cleared through the wolves and the bears in that room pretty quickly. I mean, I think there was one particular turn which was hilarious because we reflected on last week when we didn't have Mark, where Mark opened the door, stood in the doorway. You did jump in and get wrecked a bit, but I think you went invisible or something like that, so you were
The
okay with
turn
that.
after, yeah.
Yeah. And so then Mark Long rests in the doorway and then didn't take any damage. Like I think he got attacked like 2 times, and we're like, oh, okay. So we tried to do a scenario without you, and we could not take damage every turn from everything. And you're literally doing nothing at 99 and just standing there not getting hit. And it was a combination, I think, of shields from my force field and misses and blah blah blah.
Oh,
So
Taylor was cursing the deck, right? Taylor, it was great.
yeah, there was curses.
Oh,
So
just quickly with the special rules, they from before we were discussing, these ones also draw from the monster ability deck. So we've got good guys and bad guys drawing from the same deck, and you're rooting for the miss to come from obviously one faction and the crit from the other. So that was a new experience, strangely.
yeah, well,
Due to the
th-
ally deck.
there was a weird turn where I think I don't know if it was the shamans did the curse, but there was basically like I think the shamans did do a curse, and they did a curse for the monster deck because that's what they're attacking. But that's also their own deck, and so it's like it would be hilarious if they cursed them, put a curse in there, it gets shuffled, and then the next shaman who was still alive attacks and pulls the curse. Like, what are you doing, mate? Like,
I
but
love it.
it didn't happen.
No, I just love that it almost feels like a bug that became a feature in a game, and you're kind of like, this doesn't make any sense, but just roll with it
Yeah,
because it's the fun. It's find your fun.
find your fun.
We basically, we get Taylor to the end spot. Fantastic. Everyone cheers. And as you slay one of the few remaining hounds, the rest turn tail and flee. You quickly reunite Taylor with the rest of her tribe. The one shaman left, because I'm pretty sure one died, the elite one. Taylor is extremely grateful and thanks you profusely, but you want more than just her words of gratitude. So she says you still want the stones. And we say yes. And she says, okay. So we make a deal, no tricks. The pressure has to go somewhere, not from the stones, etc. I should may as well just read the summary because it would made way more sense than me speed reading it and trying to condense tiny little bits and pieces. So we made a deal, no tricks. 'Tis great pressure that creates the crystals, yes? That pressure has to go somewhere, so out it pops through the side. You'll find a small hole just big enough for a young'un somewhere near the base of the slope. That's your way in. No tricks. You shake hands, and as you're about to go on your way, Taylor places her staff in your hand. Take this, it will help protect you on your way. I'll craft another with my tribe. You now need it more than I. You can't help but like the old shaman, but you also hope that you don't cross paths again soon. Winners! Reward, we had +1 prosperity, which was awesome. I think that was our first one. Taylor gave us her staff, which was Taylor staff, item 109. During your heal ability targeting self, affect one ally within range 3 instead, and it's a tappable one-hander. I just thought of something with this. We gave this to Phil, right, so that he can help with healing. What if I had it? Then I played Sucky Sucky. So I heal myself for 3, I suck you for 2, thus being 5, but then I give it back to you. So, would that be how that works?
Yeah, 100%.
I suck you to give myself health, and then I puke the heal juice all over you, and now you're healed.
I mean, when you use language like that, like, it doesn't sound as appealing, right?
Oh,
But yes, I feel like mechanically,
yeah,
that would
okay.
work. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the option, maybe redistribute that.
No, no, I don't really play that card very much. I'm all about threatening with it. Half the time I don't even bring it.
I
We
did
also unlocked scenario 70.
I thought it was funny with, the explanation there of Talo, when you get there and you're like, "Okay, we've got you back here with your people, you're safe," and she's like, "Oh, did you still want those rocks?" It's like, "Hey, you've just completed the job that you hired me for. Did you still want to get paid, by the way?"
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, no, don't worry. That treasure thing that we just, like, fought through a volcano or whatever it was and, like, to get here for, don't worry about it. It's fine."
Hey, I always say you miss every shot you don't take, and she's just
Mm.
hoping that maybe we'll let go of it and no longer be interested.
Yeah, we'll move that to the corporate world where employers at the end of each week or month, whenever you get paid, just like, thanks for your work this week. Did you want to get paid? Just
Just
checking
double
because like
checking.
we thought maybe we'd ask in case
Yeah.
the answer's no.
Well, if they do it via email, people may not check their inbox, and it's a bit of a loophole, right?
Yeah, yeah. If you don't answer within 48 hours, the money goes to someone else. So
What were your thoughts on scenario 69?
yeah, it was good. I think it was a cool one. It was a good escort quest. The variety of monsters were just random and weird. Was a bit different to what we've seen. More Retaliate was kind of a bit shit, but like Hounds going really quickly does throw a bit of spice in there. It was definitely very good to have Mark back. So having him on his chain hell, I mean, it's kind of cool to have the whole group back together anyway. It sucks playing with only the three of us, but it was good to have him because I think it added a bit more balance back to our group.
Yeah. His
Um,
absence was notable, especially now seeing him come back in. It's
mm.
it's very notable.
So yeah, it was good though. I enjoyed it. From an escort quest perspective, it didn't suck, which
Yeah.
makes it quite good.
I love the added twist of Taylor drawing from anyone's deck. I think that was really cool because that just I don't know, you're obviously invested in the character because you'll lose the scenario if you're not. But just knowing that they're going to pull from anyone's deck and having that moment of who wants to see, especially once your decks get filled out a little bit more with some of the weird stuff. Like I've got some stuns in mine and disarm and all that. Just knowing that she could pull that would be pretty cool.
I just had an idea.
Uh oh.
All right. So there's what 20 cards in your AMD to start it with, roughly about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There's a scenario and you start with because when you said invest in characters, I had this. So you start the scenario, it's an escort quest. The special text is at the start of the scenario, every player chooses 5 cards from their AMD and places it into a deck. The
Like a
ally
like
then
a
uses that deck.
oh, that's amazing. I love that.
So you actually
Mm.
tailor their deck to be exactly what you want, and it culls your deck. So everyone could choose their negative ones, right? Like you could
That's what I'm
choose,
thinking.
yeah. You put a thing there. You can't choose your miss or crit because that's just then
Ugh.
mess up with the whole
Yeah.
reshuffling thing. But everyone could choose their minus ones if they want. But it means the ally is now heading like a wet like cabbage leaf, right? Like they're basically not doing anything in the scenario. Or
Or
you
you
can
make it a
tailor
bloody
it in, and they
titan.
yeah, and like you could really like spice it up a bit, right? I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. No, I really like that. Yeah. Don't tell anyone, and we'll design a scenario around it one day.
Yep, sounds good. That's going in our amDirt scenario.
All right, done all me. Battle goals for this particular one. So aesthetic, collect fewer loot tokens than any other character. I about halfway through decided to start pointing at people and say, "Hey, you should probably start looting some stuff for reasons like just get money. Like money's good. You can go shopping and all of that."
Well,
So very easy to convince everyone.
there was one point where I moved in to do a thing, and then I was
Oh,
there, and Mark's like, "Oh, can you maybe go here instead?" Because he wanted to do his push butt slap thing, which was fine. But it was funny because like that was about the time where you were like, hey, like, could you like loot something?" And I was just like, "I'm trying," but I went to pick that up. He's like, "No, don't touch that. Go over there instead." So I
well,
was like,
you
"Ugh."
negotiated. You asked him, "Is it worth a loot coin?" And he's like, "Yes." I was like, "Okay."
So
Sure. He's calculated it somehow that it's worth more than the 3 coins that you were about to pick up.
yeah, yeah. So no, it made sense. I got one in the end, so it was all good. But it was just a bit funny.
Bully, kill an enemy that has 2 or more negative conditions.
No,
Was
that
that
was
you?
impossible. Like with our current makeup, party makeup, because the only statuses we tend to do are poison. We don't really have anyone who does wound. I think you might have a card that does wound.
It
That
cycles in and out, yeah.
yeah, but that's very rare.
I have a
Y
muddle. I just don't use it.
yeah, but muddle and, muddle, immobilize, and stun, which we've got a little bit of, are really hard to do it because they only last for a turn. I've just frozen again. Fuck. What is going on with my camera? Was
So yeah, battle goals.
Yeah, the bully one's really tricky with our group. So,
Yeah.
I don't not gonna be picking that again.
Yeah, I tend to. I keep seeing I think Tormentor is another one. Like, I keep seeing these battle goals in my collection, and I always immediately are like, oh, they just seem too finicky to try and get off.
Mm. I
Unless,
think
unless you're right with the party composition, unless we have more
yeah,
statuses.
it's the ones that stick that we don't have much of. I am curious if Mark Shackle counts as a status. I don't know if it does because it's like place your token on them, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there was one opportunity where there was like a bear that I think had like stun and immobilize and poison or some shit. So he had enough, but I think it was on like 8 HP. And I was like, I
Mm.
don't think that I could do an attack on him, but I think it wasn't going to be like I had to crit or something like that for it to work. And it was also going to massively put me out of position. So
Yeah. Okay.
I
I've got an immobilize as well now that I think about it. So I think I immobilized the bear. So yeah, just sing out if you need anyone, if you need any conditions or anything like
sure,
that. I've got a
yeah.
couple. Closer, kill the last enemy to die in a scenario. And opener, kill the first enemy to die in the scenario. That I didn't even notice this until now. So Mark had opener, and he was like, "I would very much like to kill something." I don't know if he's mentioned first, but he ended up getting it by slamming a dog into the wall, I believe.
And Phil got
And
his.
and Phil got his.
Yeah, because he called it out at the end. There was we were all kind of moving up, and there was a wolf still hanging out, and he moved up and punched it, and he's like, "Oh," and that dies, and that looks like that's the last enemy to die in the scenario.
Yeah, okay.
So
No, I
yeah, nah,
did not
good work,
notice. So
good work,
I'm
you
really
three.
yeah, good work, us three. No, nicely wrapped up. I have the next segment, which is our PQ segment. Um, basically, what I would like to do is talk about the 8 existing PQs that we will never ever see
Why?
because they link to our characters that we're currently playing.
Ah, okay. Are they out of the game, or will
They're
we
out of the
just?
game because we're playing the characters right now, so we don't actually because every character in this game, there's no starting group.
Mhm.
Every character you get 2 PQs per symbol. So
Mm.
therefore, there's 4 that are currently, or 4 characters worth. And there's a discussion right now in our Discord right now between some people in our Crimson Scales chat with one it's like Stinky and Slayer and all that talking about PQs from the theme because a lot of the times what you're tasked to do gives you hints about what the character does.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think you and I are not the biggest lore heads. So sometimes we skip over a little bit of that.
Oh.
But I'll give you an example. I've got 8 PQs right here, and I'm going to read them, including what's required to do them. And then you tell me which character it belongs to.
Oh, okay, cool. I like this. This sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, health first is what this PQ is called. Health first. Having been exposed to the sickly,
Ocean.
let
Ocean.
me finish.
Oh, sorry.
To the sickly from a very young age, you determined to always prioritize your health. Without health, there is nothing. You always make sure to take proper care of your health no matter the situation, whether through hygiene or patching yourself up after battle. The goal is complete 7 scenarios ending at full health.
Oh, no, that's a galaxy.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's
As an
cool.
objective, if you were handed that PQ,
Hmm.
but you're not playing the galaxy in a way.
Yeah. It would be really interesting depending on what you played, right? Like, let's say I know you probably can't get this combo, but if Mark was got that one, or you got that
Oh,
one,
me, yeah.
right? That becomes really tricky because
Mm.
you have to be super careful. It probably changes your play style a bit. Yeah.
Mm. So yeah, and that I like the fact that I'm only now appreciating it because we understand the galaxy. If we looked at this beforehand, none of this would click at
Yeah.
all in a way. So that's what's really cool about the lore and everything that's going into them as well as whatever the task is because we've had that many Haven games prior to this. So seeing all the different PQs and trying to keep them fresh is going to be interesting, and that's a cool way of doing it.
Mm.
Thrill Seeker. Being full of energy and enthusiastic about exploring uncharted territory, your life has always pointed you in the direction of discovering new things. Eagerly taking the first steps to see where your next adventure will lead you has always provided you with a burst of exhilaration. You can't wait to see what's behind the next door. The goal is reveal a room tile by opening a door 20 times.
Uh, I guess based on the 4 that we've got, like the chain helm?
This one is actually Flask. This
Oh,
unlocks
okay.
Flask.
Okay.
Probably from the uncharted territory, life is always pointed you to discovering new things. So he's kind of like an egghead.
Yeah, I
I can't
wasn't
remember
I'm
what a
not sure
flask
if
is.
there's any cards or maybe something on the perk sheet that's about opening doors. I'm not sure. Okay, cool.
Hmm.
Yep.
Are you saying he may have a synergy for door opening?
I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe I'm trying to jam that idea that they all synergize in with that, and I'm making up an idea of a trait or a card I saw. So there's a good chance there isn't.
Yeah,
But I'm
okay.
just making that up now.
It's probably
So
the door. That it's more. We haven't had to pick you around opening doors, so we'll do that, and we'll give it to the guy who looks like the default guy of
well,
Crimson Scales.
I mean, all right. This is the stretch, right? So the banner spear has a trait that when you open a door, something happens. I'm pretty sure that was one of them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The banner
Snowflake, but yeah.
spear, the benefit spear is a human. The bright spark. Yep.
Oh. So humans' racial ability is opening
Opening
doors.
doors. Yes, that's right.
Gotcha. So the doorman would have to be a human.
100%. This is where we're coming to. Yes. See.
I
Yep. Yep.
get
I'll
it.
I'll make sure I add that to the character card. I have started making that, by the way.
Oh, really? It's
Yeah.
still so it's been like 9 years of Haven, and now we're untapping the human abilities and what makes them so special.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you play role playing games and you pick a race, they all elves usually have agility or dex, orcs have strength, etc., etc. Dwarves have con. Humans always are weird. They either have whatever you want or they are better at learning, which whatever, sure. But no, apparently doors. Doors is what
Plus
humans
one
are
to
good at.
doors.
+1 to doors and interacting with doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh god. The path of agony. Ever since childhood, entropy has called to you. You know that destruction is required for rebirth, and you revel in it. You watch in rapt attention when you see the ebb of life. Each life is so fleeting, taken so easily from the mortal coil. The last heartbeat before death, there's power in it. You are drawn by it, entranced by it. Now you need more. Oh, this is gonna be tough. Experience an ally or enemy dying or becoming exhausted during its own turn 13 times.
Oh, um, I'm going to say that's a chain helm.
That is a Vortex one. That
Oh,
is 100% me.
because I was like
It's so
going with the
emo and I don't know,
yeah.
sad.
I get that, but I was trying to go with the what do they do, and I know that the chain helm has the shackle or card on its turn. It takes a damage, so that would be something that you could force, like at least you could tick it along.
Yeah, okay. I
But
think this
does that say witness or be adjacent to?
experience. Experience an ally or enemy dying or becoming exhausted during its own turn 13 times.
So if I go to the rule book for either Gloomhaven or Crimson Scales, and I go to the index and look up experience,
Oh, you will not find that.
what does that even mean? Okay, be in the game
I think
when.
it's just be there.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah. Is that is that easy or is that hard?
Is it 13 times?
Yeah. So
So let's
experience an ally or enemy dying or becoming exhausted during its own turn
yeah.
13 times.
Okay, so that means for an enemy, you've either they got to die by wound, or they got to die by retaliate, or it couldn't be push and pull like through hazardous or a trap because that's not them doing it. So there's the really rare case where they would walk into a trap or hazardous.
See, I didn't know what you were talking about, and then I've reread it for the fourth time, and ally or enemy. So yes, in my head it was just allies, but yeah, okay, enemies. So
So
yeah, okay,
so that's
I'm
so
with you.
so yeah, so wound or retaliate are the main
Retaliate.
two that you're going to be able to do, which is weird because I mean, unless you have a class, there could be classes that this leans into, but we don't have in our current party. That one would be very hard,
Yes.
right? Very, very hard because most of the time allies aren't dying. If they are, we're doing something where we're trying to survive as long as we can, and then just like tank hits and die not on our turn.
Yeah, I guess the number then 13 doesn't seem too bad. Like, because you could probably get 2 or maybe 2. You'd have to line it up in some like, you would need big retaliate turns, almost like telling Mark, "Can you bring all your retaliate stuff so we can bang through as much of this as possible?"
Yeah, if you didn't have like, for example, if I was playing my character now, which I know I can't get because, I suppose I could have got it if someone else wasn't the other one. I can't do that at all. Like, I can't make things die on my turn. Oh, I think I have one card that I got, which was the special milestone card, which is basically like reflects retaliate. So if I take retaliate, they take retaliate.
Yeah, there you
Um,
go.
but that's really niche, right? Like really niche. So which means I need to fight monsters that have retaliate so that I can retaliate them back on themselves. So, but yeah, anyway, that would be very hard at that current party.
Hmm.
Um,
Cool.
hmm,
I like, yeah, going through these and discovering them. All right. Bandit Banisher. Bandits, they're everywhere, infesting the roads and ambushing wary warriors returning from battle. You've had enough of hearing about them robbing the meek and mugging the drunken in dark alleyways. It's up to you to see to it that these bandits get what they deserve: prison or death. Kill 10 guards or archers, then unlock Prison Riot, scenario 35, and follow it to a conclusion.
chain helm.
Yeah.
It'll be chain helm.
Then hell.
All right. Prison
That's
warden.
cool. Yeah. So that's a bit more of a standard kill all that you'll probably like. Would we get that earlier? I suppose archers, because the Vermling's scouts are not archers. So it'd be
Uh,
bandits. You're basically killing
yeah.
bandits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Trap setter. Mischief. Oh, okay. Mischief and malice go hand in hand. You've always had a taste for both. What better way to satisfy your cravings for trouble than through meddling with traps? Whether you're setting them in dark corners or dismantling them, your appetite for chaos is only satisfied when you hear the snap of a trap. Disarm or cause an enemy to spring a trap during your turn 15 times.
Well, I'm gonna say that's a
Mm,
chain helm one.
it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Would you pick that? Do you like that one more or the other one?
If I was picking a chain helm one,
Yeah.
do I like as in if would I pick or do I like the design?
Design.
I like the design of that one more because it's more interesting.
Yeah, okay.
Um, it definitely is. It's hard actually. They're both of it's a bit of a coin flip because most of the scenarios we've done have had traps in them, right? At least one or two, which means that you could just play very much into making sure that they trigger a trap, right?
Hmm.
Um, but if you're gonna fight lots of bandits and archers, that one's obviously heaps easier. But if you don't, like we've seen how Phil's
Yeah.
traveling and he tries to kill his hated swarm enemy, but they're like our allies. So that again, that becomes a
Only
tricky
he could kill Mark.
picking again and again, and then you could,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's tricky, yeah. But that's a cool one. I
Yeah.
like it.
Hmm. Cruel Dominion. It's not enough to merely defeat your enemies. They must suffer for their transgressions, must suffer for barring your path. Their last moments should be agony. Fucking hell.
Okay,
Nothing,
settle down, Vortex.
nothing, and no one will be allowed to stand in your way as you rise to power and glory. All your foes must be crushed with maximum prejudice. Wow. That's hardcore. Complete 10 scenarios during which you kill an enemy who has a negative condition.
Okay, cool. A negative condition doesn't seem that bad.
No, that one seems incredibly straightforward. That's almost about a goal.
Yep.
Compared to experience an ally or enemy dying or becoming exhausted on their turn. One of these is not like the other.
No, that's it.
I gotta say, I do like the other one though because it's so different.
Yeah, the other one is definitely way more interesting. It would just have to be again, if you're picking, you would have to have a way of doing it. Because if you had a party that you didn't, it would just be so I don't know, it'd be so frustrating. And you'd have to like really play super suboptimally to try and tick it over, which then there's a point where that starts detracting from your fun because you go, I have to spend 3 turns setting up a kill on something on its turn so that I can
Yeah.
tick one of these things and have to do that 13 times or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, you're right. Um, 10 scenarios as you're killing. Okay, yeah. This is really helping me. Like it's weird because it's been a system forever since Gloomhaven, but I suddenly am now probably going to pay a little bit more attention to what the PQs are saying to hint towards what you're getting.
mm,
I've never really made that connection or think about it. It's just more like, okay, what do I have to do? I have to do this and it unlocks that. Okay, do I want that or do I want to do this? Which symbol do I want more or which challenge do I want to achieve more? As
yeah.
opposed to, what is this going to lead to? This one's talking about murder and killing absolutely everything, and this one just wants to explore the world. I wouldn't have paid attention to that. So, yeah,
Do, is this something that you are aware that Gloomhaven did?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know if they've, like, yeah, I'd have to go back and look.
Mm.
I'm
I
pretty
couldn't
sure they
tell you.
did.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
I think that level of detail was there. It's just I think that back then the barrel of ideas was full, so that was just taken from the top, like just kill this or complete five scenarios in different locations and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Second last one. Yeah, we'll do this one. I saw the symbol and I want to do that one last. Experimentation. Oh, I feel like this is ruined already. You've always had a knack for experimenting. Mixing things together and creating different concoctions sometimes led to unnerving failures. Other times, it led you to discover successful combinations and experiences that you could have never achieved without taking the risks like a true experimenter. Play 30 cards for their lost action, which will lead you to
Potion. Bright
yeah, the
spark, whatever
flask.
it's in. Yeah, flask.
30 cards for lost actions. Not bad.
Yeah. That seems
30 seems like a lot.
yeah. I mean, could you play 3 lost cards a scenario?
I Before I meddled with my deck, I think I was bringing one or two. I've now fit a third in there, so I think I'm running around with three at the moment. But yeah,
Yeah.
kind
I
of.
don't I think I mean, that one's fine, it just means you're gonna probably retire in 10 scenarios or less.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, unless you had a character that had really low hand size, like less than 10, even 10 is tricky. It just means you gotta burn them before the end of the scenario, right? Which is
That is
usually
interesting. Hand size and linking that to what we're trying to do here. Because imagine Geminate with, I mean, Geminate. This is not a PQ that Geminate is going to be able to achieve, but imagine Geminate on with this PQ, right?
oh, you
Compared
do it
to
2 scenarios, right?
imagine Trap with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like it's an interesting one. Or even like the fist, right? Which really doesn't want to burn cards because like it wants to
Mm,
recycle them all. Yeah. Again, I think there's ones that your characters you'd have that are really tricky. So
can you guess what this belongs
the last
to?
one, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it the galaxy?
It might be.
Yeah.
Limitless searching. That's kind of cool. It sounds, it's another searchy one, actually. It might be Flask's third. So, experimenting. Have you been raised on a tight budget? You often looked up at the stars, wondering what could be out there and how you can explore the world to make it yours. You'll go to any lengths to plunder treasure from all reaches, across all planes, and ensure you never go hungry again. Loot 30 money tokens.
Interesting.
30 seems like a lot.
Yeah, 30 does seem like a lot. But I mean, if you focus on it, you can get 2 or 3 a scenario, right? So you still like that's 10 scenarios.
Yeah, it's just I think loot's been one of my weakest points in pretty much most of Frosthaven and also in this. For some reason, I just really can't prioritize it,
Yeah.
and I should a little bit more.
I think in the Gloomhaven slash Crimson Scales world, that one's fine because everything's coins. So you'll get it whatever you loot, you're going to be able to use in some way. Whereas there was a weird thing in Frosthaven where you'd be looting a lot of the time because you needed to for the group so that you could put towards buildings. So there was no real like I don't want to waste a turn or a card on looting because I don't get anything out of it. Whereas in this, you usually find something to do with your gold.
Yeah, okay.
Um, but I also don't focus on loot. Although I've started bringing a loot card because it's got like a second ability. Oh, I only was looting in that last one because I
Because
needed
you're
to be.
BG. Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's just if you had the focus on it, you seemed well prepared,
Yeah,
and it
well,
seems like
because I've got a top loot card, like which is handy because it means I can move and loot, and it
I
does
think I
something.
do too.
Oh, you should be looting more.
It hurts me.
Yeah.
I think I take a damage
Oh,
first, and then I
okay. So yeah, I think that's an interesting one.
yeah, okay.
Again, that's one of those ones that are super controllable, right? Like we always talk about that with with PQs and going through that list backwards. You've got like a few of them that are very controllable,
Mm,
and some of them that you would just take every opportunity you possibly could. You know, like
okay.
the loot one, the door one, the burn card one is kind of controllable, stuff like that. So
Before we close out, well, obviously not revealing much about your PQ and all that kind of stuff. Do you remember what the card says? And does the lore kind of sound more exciting now, or would
oh,
you literally have to reread it?
I'm really, really worried about what I'm unlocking now. Like, yeah,
Oh, I can't remember mine, so I know what it unlocks, but I
yeah,
need to reread it to appreciate it.
yeah, very, very worried. Oh, I
All
mean,
right.
I'm thinking about the goal or the achieve. I can't remember what the flavor of fluff around
Yeah,
is.
that's what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
curious
okay,
about having a
yeah.
reread and seeing
I
what the
have
flavor is,
to
so
have
you
a
know what
read.
you're getting yourself into in a way,
Yeah.
right?
Oh my god. Yeah. So
With that, we will wrap up episode 93. Thank you very much for joining us. Tune in next week when we hit up scenario 70 as we continue doing our Trail of Ashes. And yeah, I'm falling way behind the XP department, but a few of you should be level 4, so we'll have more card reveals. Although I actually did level up this time, but I mean, those are on the actual playthrough, which you would have seen already. I've been your host, Eddie, and I've been joined again by Gaz.
wait, I thought I was Daddy and you were
Oh,
Gaz.
shit.
Oh no.
I'm been Gaz, and joining me is Daddy.
And remember, when it comes to rolling terribly, be Gaz.
Big Gaz.
Be Gaz.